Northern Pacific Airways was first unveiled just this last August in 2021, and since then, bits and pieces about what the airline is to be have come out, and at first glance, it's kinda out there. So, what is Northern Pacific? What's peculiar about it? And is it a fake airline? Northern Pacific Airways is an airline reportedly under development by the leadership of Raven Airlines, or that is Raven's parent company, Float Alaska LLC. Now, therein lies the first peculiarity, but we'll come back to that. As it stands, Northern Pacific is to be a standalone airline separate from Raven under the Float umbrella. Its business model is near identical to that of Icelandair's, except instead of Reykjavik, Northern Pacific will be based in Anchorage. If you're not familiar, Icelandair is successful because they're able to offer comparatively low transatlantic fares. They can do this because they have a high load factor on their planes. That is, they fill a higher percentage of their seats on average than do their competitors, like, let's say, Air Canada. When Air Canada flies their 777 from Toronto to Paris in the summer, everyone on that plane has to be going to Paris, obviously. But they're not going to be able to find enough paying passengers to fill nearly all 300 seats in any one given day. Instead, they'll fill about 80% of the seats. Meanwhile, when Icelandair flies their 757 from Toronto to Paris, they don't need everyone on board to be going to Paris, because they're actually going to Reykjavik, and everyone who isn't going to Paris can get on the appropriate plane at Icelandair's hub, and everyone else that is flying to Paris that wasn't in Toronto to begin with can now get on the Paris-bound plane. By doing this, Icelandair will usually have a load factor of over 95%. This is exactly what Northern Pacific wants to do in Alaska, connecting Asia and the US through low-cost fares. Not only is this a proven business model hub-wise, Alaska and Iceland are also quite similar in terms of geographies and the tourism that brings in. And on top of all that, even the selected aircraft are the same. Icelandair's flagship aircraft type is the 757, and that's what Northern Pacific says it's going to use for its initial operations. So thus far, this all seems like a viable idea. So what's so peculiar about it? The biggest red flag some have pointed out is simply the aircraft, the Boeing 757. On flights between the continental US and Anchorage, all is well. But when it comes to the part of getting to Asia from Anchorage, this is where the Icelandair business model starts to falter. The 757-200 can really only commercially fly about 4,000 miles. One of the most popular destinations in Asia for North Americans is Hong Kong and the surrounding megacities. But that's a 5,000-mile journey from Anchorage. And even going more north to Shanghai is still over the plane's range at 4,300 miles. This means those huge Asian destinations are not going to be flown by this airline that's specifically targeting Asia. So to start, the airline plans to initially fly to Seoul and Tokyo. On the US side, they'll fly to places with larger population centers like Dallas and LA. All these routes, however, are dependent on whether the airline can acquire its goal of 12 757s by year's end. The airline's CEO, Rob McKinney, has said that they've already taken care of acquiring 6 through aircraft lessor Air Sale. That said, another suspicion arises. They've only given exact details of one of the aircraft that's supposed to be in Anchorage already, but appears to be stuck in San Bernardino. When looking on the Northern Pacific website for more solid details, more red flags seem to pop up. If you know anything about fake airlines, it's that they talk a lot of big talk and really focus on how cool their aircraft will be. Let's, for example, look at the fraudulent Avatar Airlines. They constantly bring up the advantages of their aircraft of choice, the Boeing 747. And even though it's a terrible aircraft for the small domestic network that they pitch, Avatar is always boasting about the quadjet and how now's the perfect time to invest. Looking at Northern Pacific's website gives somewhat similar vibes. They continuously hype up an older aircraft that has a lot of nostalgia for people that is arguably the incorrect platform for the job. And when they're not boasting the 757, they seem to boast their game-changing distinctions.
Ingenious new routes. A transformational loyalty program. Greater freedom to transact and exchange. Who could ask for anything more? You can.
It's a bit cringy. Ingenious new routes? Other than the pit stop, the routes aren't new. Greater freedom to transact? I mean, it sounds like they think flying to Asia is a brand new breakthrough business idea, in that by using corporate fluff words, they're about to change flying forever. And if that wasn't enough, McKinney has said that their airline is going to be the first airline to use cryptocurrency. Yeah. As if there weren't enough red flags that this airline is all hype and buzzwords. So is Northern Pacific Airways another fake airline?